to talk to Gage.
I like movies. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. So we're going to be kind of taking a bit of a trip down memory lane today, because back when I had only maybe 100 subscribers, I think it was actually my 100 subscriber special, I made a video titled my top 10 favorite video games of all time. Now, that video is outdated. As freak. No, that's not what I'm making. That's not what we're talking about. So a while ago, back when I made my 100 subscriber special, I made a video talking about my top 10 favorite video games of all time. Now, since that video, we've branched out into talking about other things on the channel, and that's something that might even hurt my channel, but it's just something I like to do. I like to just talk about whatever I'm interested in at any given point. And I've been sitting around, I've been playing way too much Xenoblade and Digimon Story, Hacker's Memory, and I just realized I need to quit it. Maybe I should talk about those, but I want to talk about movies. I just want to talk about movies. This video is already very chaotic. And so yeah, given how I sometimes do talk about movies, I do review them or discuss them here on the channel, I decided, well, you all don't even necessarily know like what my top 10 favorite movies even are, unless you follow me on Letterboxd, which you totally should, by the way. So why don't we talk about them? You know, like, why don't I give you guys an idea of like the types of movies that I really like, and maybe I'll give you a better idea of, you know, whenever I recommend or don't recommend a movie, you have kind of like an idea of what I'm into and not into. So yeah, I just decided, let's sit down, let's make a quick video, let's talk about it. Let's do it. Huge disclaimer. 2 disclaimers. 1, this is just my personal opinions. These are just my personal takes on movies. This isn't the 10 best movies of all time. This is just my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And the second disclaimer is this list changes. You know, my top 10, a lot of the movies have maintained their position in my favorites list for a while now, but movies change, tastes change. You know, maybe this time next year I'll have different movies in the list or different order rankings of everything. But as of right now, this is how the list is, and so that's what we're going by. So without further ado, let's start with number 10. So coming at number 10 is John Carpenter's The Thing. Now this is a movie that used to be quite a bit higher on my top 10 than it is now. It's now my number 10. This is a movie that I have such good memories of. I remember maybe like 5 or 6 years ago getting it for Christmas. I got a collector's edition DVD. Look, the cover was not as good as like the main cover. And I watched it every single year, and I still do. It's actually like a tradition of mine that I also like to share with my family, is every November, December time, just around Christmas, I like to pop the movie in and give it another watch. So I watch it once every single year. It's just one of my go-to movies during winter time. And yeah, I mean, what is there left to be said about John Carpenter's The Thing that other people haven't already said? It's a masterpiece. It's extremely eerie and creepy. The themes of isolation and paranoia are excellently done and executed. Practical effects are possibly the best ever in any movie. They're just so creative and out of this world. And it's not just mindless gore, although to some that is what it is, especially back in the 80s. This movie got a bad rap. But nowadays, this thing is way more highly appreciated, and I'm sure there's tons of people watching this video who also appreciate this movie like I do. So yeah, coming at number 10, it's a soft spot, but that's got to be one of the best horror movies ever made.
Oh my god!
So coming in at number 9 is Phil Tippett's Mad God. Now, Mad God is a movie that took me it was like 2 or 3 years to finally watch when it came, since it came out. Because I saw it and was like, man, that looks awesome. I gotta watch that. Because I was a huge fan of stop motion after watching certain movies that we will talk about. And I was like, yeah, like I need to watch this. And I wanted to own it. And so I was looking at my ways of owning it. And I thought it only had a collector's edition Steelbook Blu-ray. And something about me, I'm kind of like Scott the Woz.
Luigi makes me gassy.
In that I like my collection to all look the same. So I don't like weird Blu-rays hiding in there. I've chilled out on that since, I started thinking that mattered. Hey, you got Doogle on DVD? No, I got the Blu-ray. Yeah, so I've stopped caring about that personally. Mad God. But here's the deal. I made a short about this too, and I made a whole video on this whole topic. It actually did get on Blu-ray, and the Amazon listing for it's really goofy. So if you ever wanted to buy this movie, just look for the acronym BD. It means Blu-ray disc. Anyways, the movie. This thing is amazing. Phil Tippett is a visual artist. He's so good at crafting visuals. I mean, he's a special effects guy. He worked on some incredible movies from the 80s and 90s, such as Star Wars and also RoboCop. And so he's got such a talent for stop motion and for visuals. And to me, Mad God is this incredible work of art that is so visually stimulating, but I feel like it's the type of movie that, like, for me, this sounds weird, but like I forget about a lot of scenes and things that happen in the movie, and then when I rewatch it, I rediscover it all over again, and I find new details that stand out to me, and I'm like, wow, this movie really is incredible, and it feels like it's got there's some meat in there. I'm telling you, I don't know what it all means, but it's so fascinating. To me, it's a movie that I can't wait to watch over and over and over again, and it is nothing like it. There is nothing like it. Coming in at number 8, this is a movie that, for me, won my award for my favorite movie I watched in the year of 2024. And that is Persona, directed by Ingmar Bergman. This movie is absolutely incredible. It's a movie that I discovered because I literally was on Letterboxd and I was like, Persona 5 Royal. But I watched it. I finally got around to watching it last year. And this thing blew my mind. I thought I had it down what this movie was gonna sort of be about. I thought I had an idea of maybe where the themes were gonna go, just given the name and what I read about it. This is a movie I don't even think I understand. It feels so like it transcends for me. Like when I watch it, there's nothing like it. It puts me in such a mood that I've never experienced in any other movie. It feels so human and raw, but isolated and kind of eerie. But there's all those words don't do it justice. There's something, an X factor in Persona that's just so, like it gets in your mind almost. That's the best way to put it. It gets in your mind. And I've seen it twice now. It's a short movie. It's only like an hour and 20 some minutes. I don't even know what it means. I really don't. I watch it over and over and I'm like, I still don't know what this movie is really about. You get to the end of the movie and you're like, okay, so like, are they the same person? Are they like, what's gonna happen? And just the way it begins and ends, and it's just incredibly phenomenal. And I'm a big Bergman fan. I've enjoyed pretty much all the movies I've seen from him. Persona is easily my favorite. Runner-up would be Seven Seals. Seven Seals is also really good, but yeah, Persona, peak cinema. It's like my art house pick. Like my favorite art house movie would be Persona. Coming in at number 7 is a movie that has dropped again significantly for me. This used to be number 4. This used to be my 4th favorite movie in my top 4 on Letterboxd. But coming in at number 7 is Steven Spielberg's masterpiece, Jurassic Park.
Littlefoot.
Now, this is probably the least prestigious movie on this list, I think. But I don't know why, because Jurassic Park is legitimately one of the most incredible movies ever. Now, I get a lot of flack around my brothers saying that I think Steven Spielberg is a little bit overrated. I don't think he's bad. That's not what overrated means. I just think he's a little overrated. He's made a few stinkers and plenty of movies I personally don't really dig. And I do think that he tends to have great ideas, but sometimes his sort of whimsy doesn't fit the movie. I think it does in the case of Jurassic Park. It's got that funny humor, it's got the whimsy, but it's also got this like really cool sci-fi story, you know? And that's something I noticed on my recent rewatch of it, is that it really is sort of a warning. It's like, you know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that's something that really sticks with me about this movie. But you all know why we're here. We're here for the dinosaurs. They look incredible. The CGI holds up to this very day. It's a movie that you can pop on and watch anytime, any day of the week, and it's always going to have that same effect of, wow, dinosaurs. You know, that looks awesome. And practical effects are in the movie as well. Yeah, stop motion would be cool to see in here, but this is one of the movies that pioneered CGI in movies and made it look good. So this is a movie I got a huge soft spot for, and I just gotta respect it. It's meant a lot to me over the years, as this was one of the first movies I watched that wasn't like a kid's movie. I remember being 5 years old, and my dad knew that I loved dinosaurs, and so he sat me down when I was 5 years old, and we watched Jurassic Park by ourselves. It was immaculate. It is like my first cinematic awakening, and I talked about that in another video on this channel, but I've had like 2 cinematic awakenings. There was one when I was a kid, and it was like, wow, this is what a blockbuster is. This is how a movie can show so much wonder and excitement and danger and horror on the big screen. And I actually did get to see Jurassic Park later on in life. I got to see it in theaters. It was a rerun for like the 20th, 23rd, 25th, maybe it was like 30th anniversary. I don't really remember, but it was for an anniversary, and I had to, the rule was I couldn't drive at the time, so I had to have my older brother take me, but he would only take me if I paid for his ticket. So I paid for 2 tickets just so we could see Jurassic Park in theaters, because this is my favorite movie ever for the longest time. Like, this was #1 growing up. And yeah, no, it's incredible. It's incredibly special to me. I don't think it'll ever not be in the top 10, but there are some movies that, since I watched it at the age of 5, have kind of risen above it and mean a little bit more to me right now. The first of which is my number 6 movie, Akira, directed by Katsuhiro Otomo.
Leave me alone!
Now, this movie is freaking awesome. I rewatched this just like last month, I think, and I was so scared going into it because I'd already seen this twice, and so I really shouldn't have been afraid. But I watched it for the 3rd time, subbed this time. I watched the dub past 2 times. I was more used to that. Lately, I've been more interested in like, what was the original language like? Watched it subbed, and I had nothing to be afraid of. Akira is incredible. To me, this is one of the best sort of like doomer mindset movies that's very cathartic in that way, because it's a movie all about these delinquent kids who society and the world has already given up on. You know, they've already given up on them before they even entered the world. And sort of the exploration of Tatsuo's character, who really to me feels like the main character, is utterly fascinating and cathartic, because you see what would happen if a kid from the slums who, you know, never really had family or friends or anyone who really stood up for him other than Kaneda, and what happens when he basically becomes Superman. What happens when he gains this almighty power? What does he then do with that? And it really is just so interesting to me. And it's a movie kind of like Mad God, where some elements I feel like are mysteries I can't wait to discover and rediscover as the years go on. But as it is right now, Akira to me reminds me of like a Paul Schrader type of like anime film, you know, because it's very cynical, and the visuals are incredible. Let me just say that the visuals are incredible. It might be my favorite animation in a movie ever, possibly. It really might. It's freaking awesome. It's a great action movie. It's a great sci-fi movie. To me, this is like the quintessential sci-fi movie. So if you've never seen Akira and you're like, oh, I don't really watch anime, you gotta watch Akira. If you're a fan of film, check it out. But coming in number 5, we've officially made it halfway down the list. Number 5 is gonna be Richard Linklater's Slacker. This movie is also freaking incredible. I feel like I'm going to say that over and over again. I have only seen this once. I watched it this year. I watched it at the beginning of this year in January. And this thing blew my mind. It is absolutely one of the coolest movies, greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. It might come down the list or maybe it'll go up, God forbid, after a rewatch. We'll have to see. I just haven't seen it again since the first time. But Slacker, oh my gosh. There was a review on Letterboxd that said something to the effect of, it's a movie about nothing, but somehow it's about everything. And that is the best way to describe this movie, because it really is just an experience where you just kind of are there watching people talk. It's just kind of like, you'll be following one character and then like someone in the background is like walking somewhere else, like we're like walking out of frame, and then the camera decides to start following them. It starts panning and following what they're doing, where they're going. And it just keeps doing that type of thing. There's a few cuts in there, but for the most part, it's just following these different people and you're learning about these people. And the movie's sort of exploration and themes of, people who are considered slackers, people who don't really have a whole lot going on in life. What do they do with that? What do they do with the freedom and the time that they are given? And to me, it was a movie that really hit close to home. It was a movie that really meant a lot to me. All the times that I feel like I don't have a whole lot going on, or maybe I feel like I'm kind of letting down, my family, or I feel like I'm letting down myself and I'm not, everything that I should be. Slacker is a very comforting movie for me because it reminds me that I'm complete as I am. I have value as a person, just being good to people, and all that stuff. And my interests and the things that I do care about, even if they aren't widely considered like, oh, those are the things that make you successful or the things that actually help you in life, are important. It's important to have free time. And it's important to be free. And Slacker reminds me of that. And that's why it really means a lot to me. So we officially entered the top 4. This is something that Letterboxd conditions us to believe is super important. It's super important. Like, these are the 4, these are the 4 favorites. So coming in at number 4 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was a movie that when I watched it with one of my younger brothers, Gunnar. And right after finishing it, I was like, all right, that's at least a 4.5. And I did give it a 4.5 at first. And I remember we like walked outside and we just kind of like sat there or stood there just kind of looking at the sunset, which was so perfect. The timing was excellent, bro, because we were freaking like walking outside just staring at the sunset. I remember we just kind of like, we're like, man, like we felt that. A few months later, I went back and rewatched it and I was like, yeah, no, this is not only a 5-star, but this is like in the top 10. This is one of my favorite movies I've ever seen, and currently this is my favorite horror movie I've ever seen in my life. It is immaculate. To me, it's one of the few movies that's truly horrifying, and one of the things that make that even more impressive is the fact that there's really no gore. The movie tricks you into thinking you're seeing gore because you're seeing just because the sounds and the intensity of everything. But there's really no gore going on in this movie. It's very straightforward. It's actually hiding a lot. But that's okay. It really works. I think it honestly makes the movie better because you can't claim, oh, it's just a gore fest, because it's not. There's none. And it really is this movie that just shows you the depths of depravity and reminds you that we're not too different from animals given certain circumstances. That society really is conditioned and turned us into the things that we are now. But there are people out there, and there are beings that exist out in the world, I'm sure still even in this country, who are just depraved and are just animals. And this movie, some of you are like, oh man, how do you get interest out of that? But to me, it's just so like amazing that was captured in film, and not in the sort of disgusting, sort of grindhouse, exploitative type of way, but it's really just like a reflection of our own humanity, to face one of our own who's who's fallen so far from what is considered okay or normal. And I find that endlessly interesting, and to me, this is another one of those movies that feels like an experience. The final shot, probably one of the best shots in any movie I've ever seen in my life. It sticks with me to this very day. The final shrieking is incredible. The behind the scenes of this movie is insane. I watched one of two documentaries about this movie, and you learn that like it was horrible. It was hot. You know, people were like freaking passing out, throwing up. Everything smelled bad. Everyone smelled bad because they weren't allowed to shower, and so you end up with a very authentic reaction to most things in the movie because it really was quite the intense shoot is all we're gonna say. So yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's one of the best. It's the best horror movie. So we made it officially to the top 3. Before I continue, if you guys are enjoying the video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video and you want more videos like this or just me talking about stuff in the future. And leave your comment down below about maybe your top 10 favorite movies. I honestly would be interested to know. So at number 3, we have Fantastic Mr. Fox, directed by Wes Anderson.
Número 4. Foxbot.
This movie, as some of the longtime viewers of the channel will know, this is my second cinematic awakening. This is when it was. It was a couple years ago. I watched this movie for the first time. I got just a DVD of it just because I was like, whatever. We're gonna watch the stop motion Fox movie because I kind of thought it looked interesting. And I heard good things from Karsten Rundquist's channel. And the reason why this was really like my second wave of cinematic awakening was that Jurassic Park, like I said, that was what introduced me to blockbusters. It introduced me to these PG-13 movies with action and horror and comedy, and just, it was the movie that wows you. Mr. Fox introduced me to movies that felt deeper, that felt like they had some things to say, that felt like there was a message within it, and that the characters are not mere pieces of entertainment, but they're explorations of something deeper within each and every one of us. And to me, that is what wowed me with Fantastic Mr. Fox so much. Now, I mean, there's also the visuals, which is a whole nother thing. The visuals are absolutely incredible. I'm never not just blown away by how cool it looks and how warm it is. There's, again, nothing quite like it. It's a warm movie about family that's also just very mature and real with its audience. And it's a movie that I think will always be special to me. It'll always have a special place in my heart as one of my absolute favorites. So, yeah, there it is. Coming in at number 2 is The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, directed by Isao Takahata.
This might be the greatest movie ever made.
This might be the one. It's funny, I joke about how this movie was my favorite movie of all time for about a month until I watched what now is my favorite, my number 1. Because to me, this is required viewing. This is a movie that impacted me so deeply with its themes of happiness, loss, what it means to be happy, what it requires to live a happy life, what ultimately makes us happy, really. And how traditional societies oftentimes view and itemize people. In the movie, you see this happen with the Lord characters and how they idolize and sort of see Kaguya as nothing more than an object, a treasure to be won or bought. But she's a person. She's a complete person with her own emotions and realities, and that's something that she lost when moving to the city. This is something that I find to be perfect, just genuinely perfect, because the beginning of the movie, you see how happy she is. She's living in the country with her friends, her parents, and she's happy, and she's, singing the songs, they're getting into hijinks, going on adventures, and the father, the bamboo cutter, decides that she is something more, she's something special, and there's reasons for that. I'm not gonna spoil it, and takes her to the city. and raises her as royalty, as a princess. And that's what he even refers to her as, not daughter, but she is princess. And it's so interesting how she just slowly becomes more and more disillusioned and detached and unhappy with that life. It's not what she wanted, to the point where she begs to be taken away. She wants to go somewhere else so badly. She can barely handle it. And then everything the movie does with that, I'm not gonna spoil, but it's absolutely incredible. So to me, this movie means a lot to me personally because it's a movie about life. And usually you'd think of something like Forrest Gump, that movie really is about life. But to me, this is the movie about life. It's the movie that everyone should watch at least once because it reminds you what it takes to live a happy life. And I think that's something that's so incredibly important. So Taylor Prince Kaguya, that's gotta be my number 2 favorite movie of all time. Coming in at the glorious number 1, I gotta make sure I'm plugged in for this. Number 1, my favorite movie of all time is First Reformed, directed by Paul Schrader.
Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
Can God forgive us for what we've done to this world?
Who can know the mind of God?
This movie, I've never had a movie literally look straight into my eyes and able to see my soul. Like, that is what this movie did for me. This movie entered my optical and audio sensory tools, and it was talking to my soul. That isn't very intense verbiage, but that is what First Reformed did for me. So when I watched this movie, again, I found out about this through Carson. That's why I freaking love that guy. But First Reformed was a movie I watched when I was going through a really hard time with, my faith, religion, church, trying to figure it all out. Because for the longest time, I don't know if I've talked about this too much on the channel, but I actually went to college in hopes of working in ministry. I wanted to work in churches, but specifically my goal wasn't just, I want to be a pastor, I just want to have my own church. But my goal was to find ways of bringing churches together, to unify. Because to me, I always saw that as like one of the biggest hypocrisies of modern American church, is that it claims to be, we are the church, but there is no the church because they're all divided and separated. And so to me, I wanted to unite them. I wanted to find ways of coming together and working together and proving to the world that we're not actually hypocrites. And one thing led to another, and I had so many lunches with pastors, so many lunches. I've met so many pastors. I visited so many churches around my area. And I eventually did find someone who wanted to genuinely help, but I think by that point, there was just so much discouragement, so much that was taking me down from doing it. And I really said, frick it, I don't care anymore. I don't want to help because they don't want to be helped. They don't want that. Most pastors just want to be kings of their own castle, just stay in their castle, do what's comfortable, market to people to sell them their product, which is their flavor of church. I mean, it's very capitalistic. And that's it. They're cool with that. People get saved along the way, that's great. But really the ultimate goal is, how successful can I be doing this? And that's for most of them. I'm not gonna say it's all pastors, because I've met some pastors, very, very few, like maybe 2, maybe 3, like in all, that really feel like they cared and that they actually are there for you, and that's why they're there, to lead the flock. There's still systematic problems with how church is laid out, but that's kind of the gist of where I was at. So yeah, I got to a point with all that where I was just like, man, I was just so detached. And honestly, it's something I still battle with today, where I feel so detached and disillusioned by the faith I once held so dear. And so watching First Reformed, it was a movie that felt like it. It felt like Paul was telling me he understands. Like, it felt like he knew what it was like, and he understood that there's so many problems with how it is, how church is laid out. The mega church in the movie versus First Reformed, the church that Reverend Toller, Ethan Hawke's character, runs, is very different. And the comparison between them is fascinating. The conversations they have are fascinating. And there's never a line in this movie that doesn't just blow me away with how incredible it is. It's one of the best written movies I've ever seen in my life. To me, it's the greatest movie ever made. Easily my favorite. And ultimately where it comes to by the end is just a reminder of the effect people have on not only the environment, which is a big message of this movie, but really don't get hung up on that if that's not something that interests you. You can relate it to anything. You know, to me, it wasn't that like, oh, you know, churches need to be more environmentally friendly, which, I mean, they should. I think they should definitely be better stewards of that. I think that's something that they do claim to be, but are truly not. But to me, it was more so the hypocrisy of unity, the hypocrisy of, you know, how things are really supposed to work in churches, because it's not supposed to be like, you know, one pastor at the front who preaches every day, and that's just like, you know, or once a week and then we go home. It's meant to be more communal, you know, more of a community effort. Everyone has a voice, everyone has something to offer the world, everyone has something to do and to be and to give. It's not a one-man show. Frick that, that's stupid. And it's also not biblically accurate, because the Bible never describes something like that. It describes pastors as a leader, but it had nothing to say about them teaching day in, day out. And I think it's an incredibly flawed system. And so for me, having all these like very strong emotions about this stuff, and watching a movie that felt like it understood me, it was something that I've never experienced in a movie before. Especially not at like the perfect time. And every time I watch this movie, I feel seen. Like, I feel like I'm being understood. Like Paul gets it. Because it's really fricked up. And it's a movie that's cynical in a very comforting way for me personally. It's a very cynical movie, and that's Paul's style, but it's endlessly comforting for me. So yeah, that's my favorite movie of all time, and that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. God bless.